Mary Julia Byrne was born in Tennessee in 1845. Her parents were Citizen and Agnes Clark. I couldn't find a portrait of Citizen, and yes, that was his actual first name. He also had brothers named Ransom, Osariah, and Handman. In most of the historical records I reviewed, Mary Julia is called Julia, so that's how I'll refer to her. Julia was the fifth of at least 13 children. I could find very little information about Julia. I don't know what her everyday life was like, nor her hopes and dreams. I know that she could read and write, that she had 5 children, and that she was very, very unfortunate when it came to husbands. She was only 17 when she first married. Her groom was James Pyron, a veteran of the 8th Texas Cavalry Regiment, also known as Terry's Texas Rangers. James was 14 years older than Julia. They had one daughter, Nellie, who lived to be 80 years old. But sadly, James would die during their 5th year of marriage. Times were hard in the South after the Civil War, and Julia needed help to support herself and her 2-year-old toddler. That same year, she married Polk Childress, who served in the same company as her first husband. Julia and Polk had 3 children, Mary Agnes, Solomon, and Charles. They, tragically, only had 5 years together before Polk died in 1872. Now Julia really had her hands full. 2 years later, she married again to W.T. Wise. They had one son, William, but he was born after his father's death. Julia and W.T. were married less than 2 years before he died. 4 years later, Julia married Jerry Holmes. They had no children together, and he died within 5 years. Lastly, in 1885, Julia married Hezekiah Beaver. She was again a widow in the 1900 census. I don't have any details about the deaths of Julia's 5 husbands, but it's important to remember that many, many thousands of men died due to effects from the war later, not just on the battlefield. There were many outbreaks of disease, and of course this was many years before the toll of war on mental health would be recognized. We may never know much more about Julia's life, but I think it's remarkable how much she survived. She lived to be 89 years old. Just think of how much history was made during her life. 1845 to 1934. Thanks for watching, and if I ever learn more about Julia, I'll be sure to share.